At this point, we have most of the folks that have registered are on the line, so we're going to go ahead and get started. Again, welcome to those of you that have joined. The attendees are right now in listen-only mode. We will open up towards the end for Q&A. You can type in your questions if you have any during the presentation, during our in the question or the chat box on your webinar screen, and we will try to respond to the ones that you type in, and then any additional ones we'll have our Q&A at the end, and we'll open up the audio so that you can speak. Okay? I'm going to start. A lot of the presentation may be more audio than visual. We're going to do a lot of talking. We will bring up different grants and grants online. Some of them we may go to production if we need to. This is a very informal, it's not a structured session here. So we're going to try to address questions that have come in ahead of time, but we will have time to address questions at the end that may not be on the agenda. The first thing we do have on the agenda is just an update as to the construction module and what is happening with the construction module of EDA and getting that into Grants Online. Right now, Grants Online is going through a program review, an overall program review of the entire Grants Online program. That was prompted by a security concern because Grants Online is currently written on software that is over 10 years old. That software has been upgraded once during the time that we have been using Grants Online. It is time to upgrade again. However, the next upgrade for this particular software has changed so dramatically. The vendor put out an upgrade that has changed so dramatically that it is not a simple upgrade from where we are right now. We can't just do an upgrade and continue to program Grants Online the way we're doing it now. It's going to require a major change in how the programming is done. Because of that, we have to remain on the version of the software that we're using right now until we can make that major change. That major change is going to take almost a year to actually modernize. It's basically going to be a modernization effort. In the meantime, we are using a version of the software that the vendor is no longer supplying patches for. We can't get any more patches for it. It's at end of life. And so because of that, that's why we have to do this modernization effort. Now, the part of the program review is actually looking at what direction we're going to go in for modernizing Grants Online. When we first started the program review, basically everything was on the table, from upgrading Grants Online, keeping the same look and feel, but just upgrading it in-house, using the new technology to make Grants Online secure again, to actually changing over to a whole new product, a GOTS product, which is government off-the-shelf, or a COTS product, which is a commercial off-the-shelf product. There are a few products like that that are out in the arena being used by other federal agencies. We've actually looked at demos of some of those other products, including Grant Solutions, Gov Grants, Easy Grants, Prism. We've looked at some of these other products, and as a part of this whole market survey that we have to do in order to make our final decision as to where we're going with Grants Online. The analysis of these alternatives that we've looked at were presented to the Commerce Business System, CBS Executive Board this month. And next month, we are supposed to provide a down select of all of these various options and make more of a decision as to the direction we're going in. From what I've seen, and I'm sort of participating on that team, but I'm really not as a voting member or anything like that. I am somewhat involved, so I have some insight, but because this is really being done at a very high level, I don't have all the insight that my boss, that Ash, has. But from what I understand right now, the leaning is toward just upgrading Grants Online, is not toward going to a GOTS or a cost product. So it's toward basically sticking with our Grants Online product, but upgrading it, making it using more modern technology so that we can patch it, we can get system packages so it can be secure. At the same time, you also need to know that Grants Online has been upgraded, so to speak, from being a minor application in the Commerce Department to a major application. Our category has changed. We're now a major application. That was done by Commerce executives in order to submit Grants Online to, as a candidate from Commerce, to that pot of money. There's an IT pot of money for modernization efforts across the federal government, and Commerce is going to submit Grants Online as a candidate to get some of that money for our modernization effort. So in order to strengthen the justification for Grants Online being able to get some of those funds, Grants Online has been upgraded to a major system. That doesn't mean a lot for you guys. It means a lot more work for our office, our program management office. It means answering a lot more data calls, responding to a lot more, inquiries from OMB and the powers that be about IT systems across the federal government. So that's just an FYI for you. It's a good thing for you because we're being looked at and scrutinized even more closely. We are putting more and more controls, more and more secure controls as much as we can. We're coming up to speed with, making sure that we have, we're adhering to the FSMA and the FISCAM acts that are out there to make sure that we have the proper controls for IT that have to be on the system. That being said, all of this work is going to take time, and the decision has been made by the executives that we must modernize first before we can continue with our projects to bring on EDA and NIST. So we do not yet know when the EDA construction project will start back up, but it will have to wait until after the modernization is done first. And then there is a decision that needs to be made as to whether we're going to bring NIST on first and then EDA construction, or whether EDA construction comes on first and then NIST. I think right now they're saying NIST first and then EDA construction, but I don't think that has been finalized at all. And again, that's being made by the folks at an executive level, not at my level. So that's where we are right now. We will keep Phil at least up to speed, and Greg Brown, your CFO, has also been at all of these meetings. He attends the CBS Executive Board meetings, so he is a player at the table for EDA, and he is involved with the decisions that are being made. Okay? So that is construction grants. Now, I'm going to turn it over to Steve Devine so that he can talk about a couple of new reports that we're trying to get going for EDA that will give you some overall view of the applications and awards that have been done in the system from the beginning up to the current date. So Steve, let me see if I can flip this over to you. And I want to change presenter. Change presenter to Steve. Okay, Steve, presenter now. Yep, we can see your screen.
Great.
EDA applications report, yep.
Let's see if I can get this to pop up in front. Not quite, but let's see.
It's good, we see it.
Yeah, okay. Oh, so the webinar thing isn't in front of it? It is on my screen. But...
DOL report, so it's not in the way,
Okay. All right, so yeah, thanks Lillian. So yeah, Steve Devine, working with PMP. So I just wanted to kind of talk, we've been working with Lillian. She's been really helpful in kind of creating a download from EDA's records out of Grants Online. And And the goal of it was basically, we already have, they were able to send a download they call the EDA Applications Report, which some of you may be receiving. There's a bunch of folks from the regions that get this emailed to them from the Grants Online team about weekly. And that report is really useful. It has all the awards and the applications that are in Grants Online, but the structure of it is different than how we are able to download award and application data from OPCS. And so, for some circumstances, if your task is to kind of match it up with OPCS data, we have found that you have to have a bit of pre-processing of the current EDA applications report, just to kind of trim it down so that it looks like the data that we get out of OPCS, and that we could kind of merge it and make it compatible. So the difference is, I guess, I have on the slide here the current EDA applications report. It does have all the awards and applications, but it also will have rows for no-cost amendments, which is good info if you need that, but that's not something that is captured when we would download data from OPCS. And then it will also have rows. It has the capability of tracking applications that the project officer designates to be, for future fiscal years, these kind of multi-year requests. And since that's not really money that's really under consideration to potentially go out the door from this year's pot of money, it's really just like a request that, hey, when you get next year's appropriation or 2 or 3 years down the road, fiscal year 2019, we'd request $50,000 or something. So if your task is to kind of get a summary of the requests for current year money, having those in there is something that you'd need to process to strip out or work around. And then also, with these multiple rows, there was no single variable that really served as a unique ID for each row in the same way that the control number does for OPCS. And it's easy enough to make, but again, that's just another processing step. So kind of the goal was to take these processing steps that would be required and that were potentially being done by several folks, week in and week out, to kind of make the current EDA applications report compatible with the OPCS data, if you're going to look at it that way, and just have it be automated by the Grants Online team on the back end. They got the skills to be able to do that, and then that would potentially save some steps for EDA. So that's the current report. So then the new reports, there's 2 of them instead of just the one. They're basically split, with one being, for lack of a better name for sure, we're calling it, at least for now, the Out the Door Awards Report. And that's what it sounds like. It's basically just having a row for each award or amendment that was signed and complete as the award status, meaning that our grants officer signed it, but also that the recipient, the grantee, signed it, and the thing is totally complete and it's a live award. The Out the Door Awards Report also, it will have rows for only the for-cost amendments and awards. So it won't have administrative amendments and such. So you don't have to kind of clean that out if you're going to do certain kind of comparisons or summaries. And then it does also have a unique ID, which is kind of just a simple concatenation of the award number as well as the amendment number, and then the application ID and the funding FY. And then the second one, and it's split just for kind of convenience on the back end, but the second is called the in-house applications report. And so this will have all applications that don't yet have an award number, but also there'll be some in there that do have award numbers, and those are basically in the progress of getting towards the award status equals signed and complete, potentially, but they don't yet have it. And so it may be a bit odd to see, award numbers in this application report, but the idea is that they're not yet fully complete out-the-door awards. So similarly, the rows will only reflect applications that are for cost, so no administrative, so you don't have to clean those out. And it also will omit these multi-year awards, at least the future funding years. So if you have an application where the project officer has split it between FY 17, 18, 19, the 18 and 19 ones actually won't appear on this. They will on the current EDA applications report, but they won't appear on this one until the clock ticks around and we're in October 1st. We're in FY 18. Then the Grants Online script will just catch it and say, okay, this is now an application that is under consideration for this year's pot of money, basically, and that's the theory of how they'll be included. And then, yeah, the unique ID is basically a concatenation slightly longer, just because it needed to be to make it unique, of award number if available, amendment number if available, and then application ID, award file ID if available, and funding FY. So we're still, this hasn't kind of gone live just yet, and we're going to have some folks kind of take a closer look at it and maybe make one or two small tweaks just so it's as useful as possible. And then there'll be a chance to, if tweaks are needed in the future, the Grants Online team is super flexible and helpful in making them. But once we kind of get it to a point where we think it's going to be useful, we'll share that with the regions, and hopefully, we won't discontinue the current applications report. So if folks are finding that useful for what it is they're doing with it, that's fine. This will just be an additional report that they'll be able to send out that hopefully will make it easier, save some steps. So that's all I had. Really, just wanted to kind of share that, and as I said, once we kind of get it to a point where it's ready to go live, we'll share it, and we can always update it as needed. But pending any questions, that's all I had. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Steve. Yvette, did you see any questions? Let's see. All right, good. I need to bring this up so I can see my agenda. All right, I'm going to flip it back to myself. So you should now see the Grants Online screen. The next item on the agenda was talking about no-cost extensions for the purpose of extending an award period initiated by EDA staff in Grants Online. So in Grants Online, there are 3 different ways that the award end dates can be extended. 2 of them can be initiated by the recipient. 1 can be actually 4 different ways. 3 can be initiated by the recipient. 1 can be initiated by the federal staff. The 3 ways that a recipient can extend the award is by 1, putting in, let me just show you the 2 different award action requests. I'm going to come over here and go to our, let me use this feature. Just in case you didn't know, if you're on the Grants Online login screen and you want to get to our page where we have all our training documents, the link is right here on the login screen towards the middle of the bottom of the screen. You click on that, and I did a right click so I can open it up in a new tab. And here is our training page. On this page, I'm going to click on the link for Federal Program Office resources. And since I'm going to talk about award action requests first. Just want to bring to your attention that we are making some changes to the award action request functionality. We will actually talk about one of those changes a little bit later on in this discussion. But right now, I'm going to come back later on and look at the new guidance. Right now, I'm going to pull up the current award action request guidance document so that you can see what's out there right now. And these are the different types of award action requests that a recipient can initiate, that they can submit into the federal agency. The two that will extend the end date of the award are the two that are on the top, the no-cost extension prior approval required, and the no-cost extension prior approval waived, and that's only for research awards. I don't think, does EDA do research awards? So this one is probably not applicable to EDA. So the only award action request that can be submitted by the recipient to extend an award is this one right here, the no-cost extension prior approval required. Once that is submitted to the agency and gets processed, you see this asterisk right here. That award action request will be processed into an amendment, and it will go back out the door to the recipient as an amendment with the date extending the grant. It also goes through Roberta's team so that they can put the extension into ASAP. And I can also bring up, let me do this. Let me do this again. I'm going to bring up the process map so that you can see that. Over here, go to our process map. And that's the second one here. Make it a little bit bigger. Okay, so once the recipient sends the award action request into the federal government, it will come to the project officer in EDA. The project officer will review it, and then they will send it back to themselves as a grant specialist. Once they flip hats and they send it to themselves as a grant specialist, their task is going to switch from being an award action request to an amendment task. And at that point, you're going to be basically filling out the CD451 page. It will already have a date extension on it because that is how it was initiated by the recipient. So once you finish filling out that CD451 page, it goes to the grants officer. Grants officer will approve it, and then it goes to the authorized representative as an amendment to accept or decline. Notice it has not yet gone through Roberta. Only the funded actions go through Roberta before they get to the authorized representatives. The non-funded ones will go through her afterwards. So if the authorized representative declines it, Roberta will never see it. But if they accept it, then a task comes over here to Roberta, and she will do her changes in CBS and changes in ASAP as needed. Okay? So that's an award action request initiated by the recipient. The recipient can also submit a continuation amendment. So that would be a whole new SF424. It'll come into Grants Online looking like a brand new application, which it will be, but when it is processed by the project officer has the ability to either make a brand new award out of it or then associate it with a current award. It will just become an amendment to a current award. If the end date of that new SF424 extends beyond the current end date, then once it is processed, the whole award will be extended. So there's nothing extra special that needs to be done. It's just like processing a new award. And the whole award gets extended based on the end date on the new SF424.
And we still get our tax?
You get your same tax that you would get for any award, and I can pull that up for you.
Because remember I told you we was having an issue with getting ASAP authorizer.
Right, but that's for that ASAP draw. That's for one of the other ones.
They was doing the amendment.
That's the administrative amendment. I haven't done that one yet.
Oh, I think.
This one is a funded amendment.
Okay.
Okay, so this one would be a funded amendment. This would have money and dates on it.
Okay.
Okay? And that would just be the same as a regular, it would look the same as, let's see how I can show you it. Right. It would come in from grants.gov, or it could come in, I mean, since it's a new SF424, it should come through grants.gov. It's not a revision, it's a brand new amendment. So it needs to come through grants.gov. It would then come into the grants officer, a program officer, project officer for EDA. Project officer would do the regular minimum requirements checklist like they always do. After they do that, they would do this task called conduct negotiations. I could bring up the screen. Let me go over here and just bring up what that screen looks like. I'm actually going to go back to the training page again and pull up our training materials. And I don't want the grantee recipient, I want the FPO. Now I'm going to actually pull up our training materials for our class. So I'm going to do the NOAA materials because I know where to find what I'm looking for right there. And we're going to look for universal processing. Is this oh, this is not a link. Okay. So I'm going to go down here to page 27. Let me move this down a little bit. Let me see what's the easier way to do that. Pull it down. Move this out the way here. Hold a minute for me. Okay, let me do this. Now I'm going to move this. There we go. Put that over here. And I can pull us down to page, where's my conduct negotiation? A little bit further. That's entering the data. Conduct negotiations. Here I am. So on the conduct negotiations, this is the page in which we link our application with the organization. So you either click on this org lookup button or it automatically gets linked because it's already in SAM.gov and we have it in Grants Online. So that's not the important step here. The important step that I want to show you is, let me scroll down a little bit more. Down at the bottom, you see down here where you can either generate a brand new award number or you can associate this new application with an existing award. Once that's done, it will have the old award number and it will be an award file in progress. It will not have an amendment number until the grants officer signs it, but it will have the old award number. Once that's done, it gets processed the rest of the way just like a brand new award. So you get the project officer will get their PO checklist, their NEPA, and their procurement request. The procurement request is going to go through the same cycle that it goes through and eventually gets, let me come over here, procurement request over here will go through here, get signed off by the budget person in EDA, and come on over to Roberta so that she can put her commitments in. After that, the package, the award file package, is going to be signed off and certified by the project officer. After the PO checklist is done, you guys don't do a NEPA, so you don't have to worry about that. And then it's going to move on to the grants management part of the workflow, and it's going to move to the grant specialist work, which is also the project officer in EDA, but now you're switching hats, you're the grant specialist. You create your checklist, you go through your checklist, you create your CD451. In this case, it's a CD451, not a CD450. But it's going to go through the exact same workflow, where it goes through the same reviews that you would do, comes down here, gets signed off by the grants officer, comes back to Roberta to do her first and second approval in CBS, goes through ASAP if needed, goes through legislative affairs if needed, and comes on here to the authorized representative. So for Roberta, for you, it looks just like a new award, except the award number is going to be an old award number. So for you, it will look the same. Okay? But what's going to happen is on that screen, on that amendment screen, let me see if I have an amendment screen that I can pull up in Grants Online. This is our training. So let me pull up the CD451. I don't know if I have a good EDA one to look at. So I'm going to log in as NOAA, since I can find it faster in NOAA. I'm going to look up I'm going to go in as a project officer or program officer for NOAA. And would it be better just to go into production? You want to see a real one? Mm-hmm. Okay, I'm going to flip over. I'll do that. I'm going to go as myself in production. Okay. So we will look at I don't know, let's see, of any specific, okay, I see some questions. Let me just look at a couple of questions as I'm going through here. Let me undock my questions. You missed what I said about the SF-424. The SF-424 is only a requirement if there is new money that was not on the original SF-424. That's when a new one is a requirement for your amendment, for your continuation amendment. It's not a requirement if you're doing what we call a partial funding or release of funds. That's just releasing money that's already on the old one. I'm talking now about, I'm trying to address the question about extending the date of an award. And we already talked about an award action request that came in just for a no-cost extension, okay? That one doesn't have funds with it. It's no cost. So that may be one of the ones that came through to you that you were getting a little bit mixed up about. Mm-hmm. I think that's one of the ones we talked about. Mm-hmm. Okay? But that one does not have an SF-424. It's simply an award action request asking for the extension. The second way to do an extension is it is a new SF-424. It will be associated with an old award, so it becomes an amendment to the old award. But the new SF-424 can have a date that's further out than the original one. So because of that, it will extend the date of the grant that it's associated with.
So you would only use the SF-424 if you were adding money.
Yes, an SF
and time.
Money and time, or just money.
Or just money.
Right, but if you need to add money, you need an SF-424. If it's not money that's already included in the original one. If you're only adding time, it can be a regular no-cost extension, AAR. Okay? Now, the other way, I was going to pull up, let me see if we can pull up, let me take that back here. I'm going to move this back over here. Minimize that, and we're going to see if we can take a quick look at an award. I'm going to do an older, let me see if I can do an ED 15 award, because these would be more likely to have possibly an amendment on them. Okay? Roberta, do you know of any that have come through recently that may have an amendment on them?
University of Alaska.
This one right here?
Yeah.
Okay.
That sounds familiar.
Okay, so this has a bunch of award action requests, but it doesn't have a continuation.
I know we did a lot on the RIS award.
Okay, all right. So
they were, I think it was like maybe 16.
That had some extensions.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, if we can't find them on EDA, I'm just going to look at a NOAA one. So I basically want you to see the amendment document. So these are the RIS ones. That was the one we just looked at, right?
Yeah.
I'm just going to randomly pick another one. And if it doesn't have an amendment, we'll go ahead and see if this one doesn't have one. All right, I'm going to look at a NOAA award. I'm going to go with NA, let's go with the NA 15, and I'll look at an OER award. I know most of them will have a bunch of those out there. This one should have some amendments on it. Okay, so this one has a couple of amendments on it. I can't tell for sure if they have applications with them. This one doesn't. No applications, it's simply a partial funding. But if I do this, 432, I'm more likely to get one that has some amendments on it. Okay, it's a bunch of amendments on this one. Going on for 94 amendments. Not all of them are new applications, but some of them are. So I'm going to now have to just take a guess at which ones may be a new application. I'm going to actually try this one right here. Okay, good guess. This is an amendment, okay? Amendment 3 to this particular award. Notice there's a whole full slate of the PO checklist, the GMD, to everything here, the application. But it's not a new award, it's an amendment. So here's the amendment document. Click on that and take a look at that. This is your CD 451. Okay? So what would happen is that in this case, it didn't really, I think the original award, let's see what the original award. So this one went out to 2020, okay? This one extends to, well, at least it goes out to 2020. Let's take a quick look at the original award and see what it originally was processed for. I'm going to go to award file 0 to see the original award. And let's look at the CD 450. And this one, it did. So this particular award looks like it didn't extend the time because it's 6:30. Let's look at it one more time. What's amendment 3? Yeah. So the time didn't extend on this one. Only more money was added. But it could have extended the time too. Okay? So there could have been time and money. But again, it processes just like a brand new award. Roberta, you do your thing just like a new award. If the date is extended, you put in a new date. Okay? So that was the second way it could be done, initiated by the recipient. The third way is actually initiated by the federal folks, and it's an administrative amendment to extend a date. So I will actually demo that. I'm going to try to do that with an EDA award that we have in our training system. I'm going to flip over here to training. And we're going to find an award that we've done in one of our classes out here. Awards, search awards. It's going to look for an ED 17 award. I'm just going to randomly pick one. Okay. And what I want to do, right now this goes out to 2/28/2017, which is past. Okay. Let me pick one that hasn't passed yet. This might be a good one for me to use for closeout. I'm going to hold on to that one. 007. Let's remember that one. Let me do another one. And let me try this one here. Let's see what we have here. Okay. This one goes out to 9/30/2018. And now we want to take it out to the end of the year. We want to take it out to 12/31/2018. We would create an administrative amendment. This is going to bring us our CD 451 page, our amendment page. Okay? So here we have to put two sets of dates, our amendment dates and our project dates. It is these boxes that control the dates of the overall award. Okay? So, the amendment date, I'm going to put today's date as the effective date. 5/10/2017, and I want to take this award out to 12/31/2018. 31/2018, right? But I also have to do this down here. 12, I believe, I'm going to try. I believe I only have to put the new project end date. So let's just check to be sure. 12/31/2018. Okay? No money. You cannot do money with an administrative amendment. Money must go through the process where we have a procurement request. You can modify the cost share. There's no procurement request related to the matching. But if you're dealing with federal funds, you cannot do that with an administrative amendment. For the reasons, we're going to say we're extending the award. Maybe there was an administrative. We just did one in NOAA a couple of days ago. They made a mistake when they processed the award, and they made the award for 1 year, but the SF 424 really had 2 years on it, so that they had to make an administrative amendment to change the end date to be the 2 years. Okay? The award. All right, you would put the real official reason, but that's just for this purposes here. Okay, if you need to add special work additions, you can do that. We already have links to our terms and conditions. If you need to add any attachments, you can do that there, and then you can save the start workflow. Okay, so this is project start date is required, so I need to start with the start date of whatever the award was, okay? If I don't, then it will actually change the project start date. So this needs to be the start date of the award, which I don't remember what it was. So now I have to go back here and get my project start date, 10/1/2016. Here. Oh, this is another one. This is not the one I started. So let me just go ahead. I think I lost my never saved because I didn't get that date in. That was a required field. So I have to start that over. What was it? 10/1/2016. So I learned something new. You got to put both the start and the end dates. I'm going to put them in here so I don't forget. 10/1/2016, and we're extending it to the end of the year, 31/2018. The amendment start date is today, 05/10/2017, and this one will go out to the same date as we have here, 12/31/2018. Put in my reasons, extending award and date. And that should be all I have to do, save and start workflow. This time I don't have a warning message. Okay, I switched hats now. It's with me as a grant specialist now. I started off as a project officer, as a program officer. I'm going to go ahead and forward to, just for the sake of time, I'm going to skip all of these. I'm going to forward to our grants officer.
Well, there are 2 questions out there.
2 questions. Okay, thank you. Let me take a look at the questions that we have so far. Let me undock them. All right. An example where amendment includes adding new funds and a revised cost share. Okay. That was what I talked about before. I didn't show it to you. Maybe I can find one and show it to you, but that was the workflow we went through before. That example is just, it basically is just like a brand new award. The only difference, you process it like a brand new award. The only difference is that when you get to the page where you generate an award number, you don't generate a new one. You just associate it with one that's already out there. Everything else about the processing is the same as a new award. Okay? And then in other words, the cost share requirement, okay, cost share being reduced. If you want to reduce the cost share, okay, we can do that. We can do that on the one we're doing, the non-federal funds. Okay, if the non-federal funds get reduced, and it has matching, then you would reduce the cost share too. Now that would not be a new SF, that's that's not adding funds, that's reducing funds. That's a whole new ball game. So we'll talk about that a little bit later. That's not dealing with extending the end date. Can you make a note for me, Yvette? If we have time, because that wasn't on the original part of the agenda, but if we have time at the end, we've got a couple hours, we will hit that before we finish off. Okay, let me just go ahead and finish this right now. Let me do this. Move this over here. All right. Get this back over here. There. All right. Where was I? Oh, we are doing an administrative amendment, right? We want to see who it's with. We just did this amendment right here. It's with the grants officer, EDA grants officer. And I hope I can remember what the password is. Let me see if I can remember. Password is, it may still be the password from the last class, so I'm going to try that. Check something over here. Let's see if it's from the February class. That was last February, right?
Right. I think it's EDA GOT, Grants Online Training GO.
Oh.
It's
Oh,
the
is
same
it?
pattern
Is
as
it?
for NOAA.
May or may not be. Hold on. I'm looking at what we have here. That's in the last time I used it.
Oh.
So let me try one other thing. Ah! Woohoo! Let's see if this really has the task. There is actually a madness to the method, or a method to the madness. That's what it is. It's a method to the madness when we're creating these passwords. So usually if I can't figure out one way, I go to a different way that I think it might be. I believe this is an amendment. Let's do this. I don't know when this came in, so I'm just going to, for those of you that don't know you can do this, this is something that might be good for you to do. I want to see whenever my tasks come in. I want to see my task receive date. So I am actually modifying my inbox so I can see these things in a slightly different order. Okay? I don't want to see my completed date. I don't need that. When it's completed, it goes out. I'm going to put in my federal funding over here. I want to see my applicant. Put that in. All right, that's good. Save. And let's go back to my task. All right, today is the 10th, right? This is the one we just did. It just came into the inbox today. And the grants officer, of course, really, I should look at it, but for the sake of time, I'm going to approve it. Okay? Once I approve this, if I go back to that amendment right here, I now have a number on it. After the grants officer approves it, it gets a number. Let's take a look at that award file and look at the workflow history and see what's going on with the workflow history and the award file. It is now with the recipient. Remember I told you it goes to the recipient before it gets to the reverter because they have to either accept or decline it. But I do want to show you the award file, the grants file. Let's go back to the grants file and notice the award date. is now been extended from the June 30th date or the September date. I forgot which date it was, but we extended it to the end of that year. So now you see that the date has now been extended. A very, very simple task to do an administrative date extension. Okay, so those are the 3 ways that dates can be extended. 2 ways initiated by the recipient, 1 way initiated by our federal staff. All right, let me go back to the agenda. Take a look at our other questions. For cost amendments, especially noting where to enter the ASAP authorized amount. Okay, well, let me go back to, it takes a little bit more to process a for cost amendment, but let me see if I can do one fairly quickly. I need an RFA. I need to enter a paper application. And I'm logged in as a grants officer, so I need to log off. I'm going to do this as NOAA because I just know the accounts a little bit better off the top of my head. And we will, in order to do a for cost amendment, especially, well, there's two different ways. There's 2 different ways you can do a cost amendment. One is a partial funding, and one is a whole new SF 424. So let me try to just do a partial funding. We talked about the SF 424 already. Let's do a partial funding. So the way to start that is you have to have an award that's already out there. So I'm going to use an award from one of our training class yesterday. And I'm going to try to pick up one of these awards that I'm resorting the awards by the award number, okay? So I'm going to pick up one of these. Let me pick up this one right here. That's not a good one. That one didn't get caught. The NOAA one's messed up because the interface didn't work yesterday. Okay, so much for a NOAA award. Log off. Let me log in as an EDA person. Student 30. It's easier actually to use to train with the EDA awards because I don't have to rely on the interface. So if the interface messes up, it doesn't mess up the EDA awards. Let me see if I can find one. We could do a partial funding on the one we just did, actually. Just don't remember the number. Anybody write down that number we just used?
It ended in 11.
And remember, it ended in 11. Was it an ED what? 15?
Yeah.
And it ended in 11? Or was it just 17?
I thought it was 15 because you extended the date to 18.
Okay. Well, let's see what we have out there. Notice what I'm doing when I'm searching for the award. I don't remember the entire award number. It doesn't like that. So let me try 16. The wild card means, I think that's the one, right? No, this is not. This one hasn't been accepted. Let's try 17.
Isn't that the one we just created, the amendment on?
Yes, but the award, it was already accepted. That's the only way you can create an amendment is the initial award has to have been accepted. Okay, I'm going to do this. Let's try to find it this way. So I'm looking for any award that starts with ED and has a 0011 in it. There's 2 of them. It was a 17. The 17 one is the accepted one. Okay, so we'll use this one. All right. Here's the one that we just sent out to the recipient. It's approved by the grants officer, but it's not yet accepted. We didn't go in as a grant. We didn't go in as the recipient to accept it yet. So it's sitting in the recipient's inbox for them to accept. Okay? There's a couple other award files in progress. I don't know what they are. I'm not going to look at them. We're just going to start a new action here. and we are going to partially fund this award. This is how you create a release. This is how you start a release of funds. Okay? This is an action that you take when you have a multi-year application, or you can have a single-year application, but you didn't give them all the money right at the beginning. So the application was $400,000. You only gave them $50,000. And now you want to give them the other $50,000 that was on that application. This is how you do it. You don't need a new application. You've got the application for the whole $100,000. You just want to release the next amount of funds on it. So you start with partially fund this award and submit. On the next page, you're going to see an application that's associated with that award, and basically you need to select that application. It's going to show you how much federal share was on that application. On that SF-424, you had $10,000. So far, you gave them $4,000, so there's $6,000 still out there that you can still give to them, because even they asked for $10,000, you only gave them $4,000 yet so far. So we're going to give them another $1,000. Okay? Now, when I'm looking at this, this is telling me that it was 1-to-1, so I had $6,000 left in non-federal matching costs that need to be applied to the award. But there's an action already out there for $7,000 in matching. I should still be able to do my $1,000 here because that one hasn't been approved yet. So I'm going to see if this will allow me to do this. And this is a demo. So here you're putting in some kind of a message that says why you're releasing this. It could say releasing year 2. It could be the second year, or it could be the first year. Additional funds come from the original. I can't spell. Request SF 424. Okay? That's not the real words you would put in, but that's what I'm putting in for this. Okay, save. Let's see if this will take. Yep. All right, I'm going to start my workflow. I'll try to talk as loudly as I can and as distinctly as I can. Okay, this procurement request, it is with Roberta. See where it says commit one actions not started? See, Roberta has it. Okay, so now I'm going to log off, and I'm going to log in as this user that we use for training. Commit one. Is that better? ECBS1. I think I don't need to reset this one. Let me make sure that this one is reset. ECBSONE. And we're going to make sure that we do this. Let's see if we can log in. Okay, this is Roberta's first task. And Roberta, you don't have the date.
No, because you just showed me how to do it.
You learned something in class today. I am over to my preferences. I'm going to my available columns. I'm picking up my task receive date. I'm pushing it over here. And I'm going to push it up because I want it to be the first thing that I see. There we go. All right, so save. Actually, Roberta, this is ECBS1, so it really wasn't you. But I think you don't have it either, right? Right. Okay, so here's the task right here. And I'm going to go ahead and clear it. So Roberta has gotten into CBS and done the first approval. Complete. Take the task. Thank you. Submit. It's going to go to CBS 2, which is Tom, right? Do this. Make sure that password is set. And let's log off and log in. So this is what happens. These are all the steps. Somebody asked about all the steps that take place in this workflow. So this is CBS 2. This is Tom. And here's Tom's task. We're going to go ahead and clear this. All right, I'm going to log back in as a project officer. G Student 30. I should now be able to forward this back to myself as a grant specialist. Let me just show you the process map and what we've done so far. That's the wrong process map. Let's go to this one. This is what we're doing. It's a little busy, but we created that partial funding memo, right? We put the numbers in here. We just ran our procurement request all the way through this workflow right here. So now we can forward the award file onto ourselves as a grant specialist. That's what we're going to do next. Let's look in our inbox. Here's our release of funds. That's our award file in progress right here. Forward to grant specialist. It's coming back to ourselves as a grant specialist. Let's take a look. I'm refreshing my box. Whoop, that's not it. All right, let's see what grant specialist it went to. It went to grant student 43. Okay. I'm going to try to move it to myself. Copy. I'm going to go to task management. Grant specialist. I may not have the ability to do it, but let's just see. Here's our release of funds right here, a couple of them. Here's my 510 one, the one from today. Reassign it to me. 30. All right. See if it's in my inbox now. Here it is. Okay. All right. I now have this release of funds as a grant specialist. Now I don't have that memo. I actually have an amendment to work on. So I would go down here and click on View Amendment Details. I need to, before I do this, I want to make sure that I know what the award dates are. 10/1/2016, 12/31/2018. Okay? Now, go back to my amendment. Whoops. Go to the amendment right here. All right. Here's my amendment. It has money on it. Remember, this was a funded amendment, so it has money on it. 10/1, no, today's date is 5/10/2017. Now, let's put a slash, put a slash in there. Now, we can actually extend the date of the award with this amendment too. This is not normally done, but if you want to extend the date of the award, you can put that in the project start and end dates. Whenever you have amendment in front of you, if you want to change the project start and end dates, you can use these boxes to change the project start and end date. This one would happen to be an extension and a partial funding at the same time. That can be done. Roberta, you would just have to make sure that you're looking at those dates and making sure that, you know, the dates are the same or if they've changed.
The other thing, Lillian, I don't know if you were going to touch on that, but at the bottom, there's the ASAP authorized amount.
Yes, exactly. That is exactly what the question was about, I think. Where do we put our ASAP authorized amount? And Roberta, thank you for pointing that out. That is right here, this red item here in the middle of this page. So now, in class, we don't use, oh, this is ASAP, yes, okay. ASAP recipient, yes, it is an ASAP recipient. So you would need to manually put that $1,000 here. For the original award, the CD450, the system automatically puts in the ASAP authorized amount. It does not do that for amendments.
I'm not sure it does that because in the beginning, we were getting a whole bunch of awards.
You know why?
Without the ASAP
I can tell you why. That was because of that timing of when we were getting them set up in ASAP.
Okay.
Remember, it was like right before the award was getting made, and sometimes you would tell us, oh, this one's ASAP, we would get it done, but, but the workflow had already started.
Okay.
So as long as when they start working on it, it is already an ASAP organization, then the system will put the ASAP amount on a CD450. It will not automatically put the ASAP amount on a 451, which is our amendment. So this is very important that it needs to be manually entered. Now, we can, if Phil or someone at that level wants to put in a system change request to ask that the system automatically fill that in, that we could do that. We would need to get a requirement in us, because when NOAA developed the interface, it was developed by NOAA, the NOAA's requirement was that this did not get filled in manually. Their thinking behind it was that there may be some reason that even though you want to obligate the funds, you didn't want to authorize all of the money. And so they didn't want a mistake to be made by the system automatically filling it in. However, it seems that 99.99% of the time, it's going to be that same amount.
For EDA, yeah.
And for NOAA. It is for NOAA. It's very, very rare that you don't want to authorize the amount. And even if you do, you can go back and manually adjust it. So I'm thinking, I'm not the one that gives requirements. It needs to come from one of the bureaus. But I think we should probably do a system change request to have the system automatically fill that in, because I know it would greatly reduce the mistakes and some of the angst from our users. So, Phil, if you want to just submit that, we can get that in and we could talk about it in a change control board meeting. Okay? But right now, just so you know, right now it is indeed a manual step for 451 to enter the ASAP authorized amount in that box. You do also want to click the do not pay list that you have checked, SAM.gov or whatever you check, to make sure that the recipient is in good standing. Enter your reasons right here. Save. And let's get our dates in. So the end date right now, I'm not going to change the end date of the award, but I could, but I'm not going to for this one. So if I'm not changing the end date of the award with the release of funds, I don't need to put anything down here in the project date. I just need to put in the amendment date, and I'm going to keep the same end date. Okay? At this point, I should be able to save and return to main. And, what's going on with this right now? Why do I not have, here we go. View amendment details. I've got my information in it. I went to it the wrong way. So save and return to main. Now I can forward it to my grants officer. And I'm not going to keep going, but because I think that's the main thing that everybody wanted to see. Just for the sake of time, I'm not going to assign it by the grants officer to the rest of it. But the rest of it is just, it's a similar workflow as in any new award. The grants officer signs it, the grants director. If you had to send it to the director, you would do that first. Grants officer. Because it is a funded action, it will go through Roberta for the obligation before it gets to the recipient. All right, let me take a look. Any questions, Yvette? Okay. That was number 4, the forecast. What can project officers / grant specialists do to expedite the time between the grants officer's signature and funding via NOAA Finance / CAMS? I'm going to pull up the process map in Roberta. I don't know how to answer this question. But let me pull the process. Yeah, you want to come and stand over here by the phone, and then maybe we can see if there's anything that we can say to help with. That's the wrong process map. Let me put grants management workflow. So the question is, what can project officers do to expedite the time between a grants officer's signature and funding via NOAA Finance? So just so you can see on the process map, this is a process map for a funded action. Once the grants officer signs it, it goes to Roberta for her first and second level obligation approvals. It then goes in back to Roberta to do the ASAP authorization.
Mhm.
If necessary, it goes through Legislative Affairs.
They all go through legislation.
Oh, that's right. I'm sorry. EDA all goes through Legislative Affairs. Back to Tom
Mhm.
for the certification and to the recipient authorized representative. So, Roberta, I'm not quite sure.
Well, usually from the time we get our task, we try to do it within 1 to 2 days. We claim our task, and they will go ahead and do the request, and then Tom will approve it the next day. So yeah, sometimes it does take a little longer this way because of the fact that we do have to clear task. So
Right.
if Tom has gone home for the day,
Right.
he can't clear his task
In line.
until he comes in the
next
day.
day.
Whereas before we never had that
Okay.
issue.
So in this case, he could certify, or the once you do your ASAP authorization, then something goes to ASAP from CBS, right?
So are they talking about like the obligation or getting it into
No, I don't
ASAP?
think, because you do these right away,
We
right?
do those right away.
The
so
obligation.
what happens is like
I think it's ASAP.
we have to wait for it to come back from OGC. We can't certify funds in ASAP until we get our task from OGC.
This legislative affairs.
Mhm.
Okay, that's OLA.
OLA.
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
I'm sorry, from
Yeah.
OLA.
Yeah.
And so we could have it in ASAP within 3 days, depending on how quickly we can move our task. But we can't certify the funds in ASAP
Until the OLA task is cleared.
Correct.
Okay. So just be aware that the first and second approval happens pretty much right after the grants officer, within the next day.
Day or two, I
Yeah,
would say.
within the next day or two. This happens pretty quickly. Then the ASAP authorization will happen right after that.
Correct.
So all of this will happen, this line will happen within the first 2 days.
Yeah.
But then it'll go into legislative affairs. We don't control how long that takes.
Correct.
So the legislative affairs person will do their thing. Once they're done, then they release it, and the task sits in Tom's inbox
To actually certify.
to certify. He will have already possibly certified. Does he wait for the task before he certifies the batch, or he may have already certified the
So
batch?
we have to wait for the task.
Okay. So he will not certify in ASAP. It's 2 steps. It's not what they do in Grants Online.
Correct.
Tom and Roberta have to get into CBS, or it's not ASAP itself, it's CBS,
I
right?
believe they do it through CBS.
Okay, so they get into CBS, they have to do whatever they do to certify in CBS, then they have to get back into Grants Online and clear the task in Grants Online. So again, if something happens at the end of the day, Tom is not going to do it then. He leaves and he'll certify it the next day.
They'll go the next day.
Okay.
And we did talk with OLA about certifying before they clear it, and they told us we could not.
Oh, right. So we did
Remember,
have
we
that
had
discussion. We did.
because of the batch and stuff, and
Right.
they said, no way. We cannot allow the funds we cannot allow the grantee to see the funds in ASAP before they have approved it to us.
Correct.
So we tried.
So hopefully that answers the question about the process and why it takes, how long it takes. It just really varies. There's several pieces there, and so those are the steps that it must go through in order to complete the step and get to the recipient. Okay. Number 6, ASAP drawdown request. This is another area that Roberta and I have had a recent conversation, and some changes are going to be made. Roberta, you want to come on up for that? So for the ASAP drawdown request, currently, let me pull up that process map. This one. Number 5. Okay. This is the ASAP drawdown request process map. Now, what we're not capturing on this process map is the outside action, which we should probably do. Yvette, let's see if we can some kind of way capture the outside action that the recipient also has to get physically in the ASAP and put their request in ASAP. So we'll maybe enhance this map to show that additional step that the recipient has to do. But right now, the EDA process, we're changing it. Right now, they put this in first before they get into ASAP, but we're going to, no, that's what we want them to do.
Right.
We're going to change it and provide guidance to have the recipient go into Grants Online first, submit the ASAP drawdown request. At this step, when the grant specialist accepts the request, we have a ticket that's going to go into the system with the next release in July. And when that release gets deployed, we're going to start sending out an email notification to the recipient when the grant specialist accepts this ASAP drawdown request. That will then prompt them to go into ASAP at that time and submit the drawdown actually in ASAP. That way, they'll do that. Roberta can get in and see it and then release the funds, and it's not as much of a delay.
Right. See, but I think one of the misunderstandings is that I can't clear my task until the grantee requests the money in ASAP.
Right.
And I believe that a lot of them think that they're going to receive something from me telling them to go in.
Right.
So I have like all of these Grants Online award action requests that the grantees has not drawn down in ASAP.
Yeah, right.
Then I have 6 pages of ASAP where the grantees drew down, but there's no approval.
Right.
Online.
Right.
So yeah.
It's these two things that are not connected. The systems in this part are not connected to each other. They're 2 manual steps in 2 different systems. Those systems are not talking to each other. So we need to get this process a little bit more refined, and right now I don't think there's enough guidance. And also the recipients don't get that additional notification right now, so they really don't know when things have happened.
And draw down that
right.
Right.
So we're going to, hopefully this enhancement will help that. At step 8, when you, the project officer, accepts the ASAP drawdown request, we're going to then kick off a notice to the recipient. At that point, they will be instructed to go into ASAP, actually do their drawdown, and then Roberta's going to have her task in her inbox. She should be able to see then the drawdown in ASAP. She can do the clearing of that and releasing those funds, and then clearing her task in Grants Online.
Yes, but if the task is still sitting in Grants Online, that means the grantee has not requested their funds in ASAP.
Yeah. So I think it'll be very, very helpful as we're producing guidance to add the step that the recipient has to actually go into ASAP. So we'll enhance our process map, and hopefully that along with the wording in the guidance document should hopefully clear things up there. Okay? So hopefully that has answered that question for the ASAP drawdown request. We will also explain this to the recipients in the webinar tomorrow. All right. We got a question that was not in the original agenda, but we have time, and that was about progress report frequencies. So currently, it's almost going to be a moot issue because we're fixing it for EDA in our July release. We actually are adding an option for the 12-month progress report, for the annual report, that they won't start getting their notices until after the whole 12 months instead of 9 months like we do for NOAA right now. So prior to our July release, the NOAA requirement in the system for progress reports, annual progress reports, the very first report was due after 9 months, not after 12 months. Because of that, the recipients, bless you, Phil, the recipients were getting these notifications that you have to get this progress report in after 9 months instead of after 12 months, which was throwing off the EDA awards because the special award conditions didn't say that. So just so you'll know, in 2 more months, that option will be available. Now, we can go through an exercise and modify the EDA awards that are using the annual report so that they can be on the schedule for the 12-month annual report. That's one thing that can be done. In the interim, though, there were 3 options that we threw out to EDA of what they could do. Phil, do you remember? I'm going to say what they are, and I don't remember which one. Or do you remember off the top of your head which direction you guys were going to go in?
Well, it was kind of...
You want to come over here to? Yeah. So Phil's going to come up here and talk on the phone so you can hear him.
Yeah, and I don't have the email in front of me, but
These are the options right there.
if you recall, several months ago, I had sent out that email with the 3 options, and just based on the feedback that I got, it seemed like option 1 was the one that was more preferable, and that's, and I'll just,
Make it bigger.
yeah.
Try to make it big.
Yeah,
no, that one I can't put on the screen because
Okay.
it's on my personal computer.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
I can read it off.
Okay.
Yeah, so again, the email went out a few months ago, if you recall, but option 1 was basically accepting the current NOAA business process by selecting the annual progress report option on the PO checklist and adjusting the language on the special award conditions accordingly. Again, based on the feedback, that seems to be the one that most folks liked, but there's still an option 2 and an option 3. So I don't think it really matters what option you choose as long as it's working for you. And as Lillian said, in a couple more months, it's all going to be a moot point. So once we get the system fixed in. So, but if there's any questions on that while we're on the topic, or if there's something perhaps that you want Lillian to demonstrate in terms of one of these options, then we'll just look for some questions here. But if not, then we'll just kind of hang tight for a couple months, and it shouldn't even be an issue.
A problem,
Yeah.
right?
All right.
So
Thanks.
there's a question?
Mm-hmm. Let me take a quick look at the questions here. Where are our questions? Look at that. All right.
The last one.
Last one. Will the July change also take into account SF 425 financial reports? No, our July change is focusing on progress reports. We weren't given a requirement for financial reports. They hadn't seemed to be a problem in the past. Financial reports have always been on the schedule for semi-annual, March and September, end of reporting periods. So if there is a financial report requirement, that needs to be sent to us because we don't know about a financial report requirement. That's different from what we're doing already.
Lillian, can we go back to the ASAP thing for a minute?
Yes.
I just want to specify that for EDA, the grantees upload the 270. They are not to use the 270 within, because I am getting some.
Okay. Let me repeat that. Roberta wants to make sure it is known that let me just click this over here, when the recipients are filling out their ASAP drawdown request. Let me do this to make sure you can see this. Let me make this a little smaller. When the recipients are doing this ASAP drawdown request and they get into Grants Online and do it, let me see if I can show. I can't do it as, oh, yeah. Let me look at this. ASAP drawdown request right here. This is the screen that the recipients fill in. So they have to put in the date, and I'm just going to say today's date. They have to get a 270 from another website. There's going to be an attachment. You can't attach it yet. You got to fill in this, and then you get an attachment. Oh, you're talking about just a plain 270.
I get attached in Grants Online.
Yes.
But EDA doesn't use that.
Yes. Okay. Now I understand. Okay. There's a difference between a 270 for a non-ASAP person that really needs a check cut versus the $270 request they're supposed to send in with this ASAP drawdown request. So Roberta wants to make sure that the recipient, we're going to have to add that to our guidance document. Yes. Right. So to submit the $270 that goes with their ASAP drawdown request, they need to fill this out, and then let me do this quick because you can't see the attachment until I fill out the screen. So I'm going to fill this out, today's date, on 2017. I want $100. And it's covered by, I'll say, January to the end of April. That's my period of coverage. Total expenditures today were $100. I'm just covering my expenditures. And total funds previously requested was $0. This is the first time I'm asking for one. And cover expenses, whatever it is. Now, the recipients must enter the information in this screen first and click the Save button. After they click Save, they get a link. This is the link that needs to be used to upload basically a paper, an electronic SF-270. So they need to go to the OMB website or wherever those SF forms are, download an SF-270, fill it out, and they probably all have one on their desktop now. Fill out the SF-270 and attach it right here. Okay? So I'm just going to attach a file that's on the desktop now. Okay? But this would be the SF-270 that they have already filled out. Okay? Save attachment. Now there should be an SF-270 attached at the top of this ASAP drawdown request. Okay? Then they will click Save and Start Workflow. Now I am logged in as the project officer, so I'm kind of doing this like on behalf of the recipients. Okay? But let's see what happens to it. So I've got it in my inbox. Grad Student 43 has it. I got to reassign it to myself. So let's go back here. Specialist, board number, ASAP request. Wait a minute. Oh yeah. I want me, select, reassign it to me. All right. So now let me look at my inbox. Here's that review ASAP award action request. I can actually look at it or I can accept it. This is normally what the grant says. Normally this would have been done by the recipient and then set in to the project officer. So the project officer would now have it. If let's look at the map, it comes from the recipient. This is one thing where the project officer doesn't have to wear two different hats. They're just operating as the grant specialist, so they don't have to do one thing and then send it back to themselves. They can operate with one task. So they're going to accept the award action request and submit. Okay. It should, let's see where it is now. I'm just going to click back on it in the breadcrumbs. Workflow history. It's gone to Roberta now. Okay. There is an attachment. You don't even have to go inside. The attachment is also available from the launch page. Okay, so now Roberta does her thing. What Roberta was talking about was that some of the recipients seem to be going to the grants file, and you're saying they create an SF-270 in Grants Online?
Yeah, that's what my task says. It says SF-270 and like it wants me to move funds into ASAP.
Really?
I have the task like on mine.
I need to look at that because they should not actually have an ability to do an SF-270 in Grants Online unless the recipient is marked as high risk.
Okay, I'll have to show you my task because I didn't plan my task.
Okay, so I'm gonna speak with Roberta about her task, and we may come back to that at another time and explain. Yes, if there's some questions. Thank you. This is good. It's working well. Let me look at the questions right here. All right, questions. The bottom three.
Mm-hmm. Yep, 239. Yep.
Okay. Great news. Will the grant specialist be required to update the existing award to the 12? No, the grant specialist would not be able to. This is back to the progress report issue. The grant specialist won't be able to make the update. What you'll need to do, if you actually want to update existing awards, you'll need to send the Grants Online Help Desk a list of which awards need to be flipped from the 9-month annual report to the 12-month one. Okay? So you guys would need to start getting your list together. If you have some currently that you wanted us to switch over, we can do that. Okay, I covered the partially funding awards regarding setups of the grants. Is the same as other awards, but budgets are broken out annually in accordance with the plan to receive future annual partially funded disbursements. Okay, this is from Jason. I think Jason, you're asking me when you have a multi-year award, so the original plan comes in, the budget is broken out into 2 or 3 different years worth of budgets. You only give them the first year's worth, but all 3 years came in on that application. You would do the partial funding the same way I did it. You would just wait till the next year, and when it's time to give them the next year's money, you would do the partial funding or release of funds, just like what you saw me do. Okay, hopefully that answers that question. And then I think there's one more question. Okay, thank you. All right, good. All right. One more. Is there another one? This one right here?
243, Patricia Shorter.
Oh, are there print screens of this in the notes or training documents? There are print screens in the grantee. I'm not quite sure what we're talking about. I think we're talking about the award, the ASAP drawdown request that we just talked about. Patricia, can you let us know? Is it ASAP drawdown request? What are you looking for the print screens for? And just while she's replying, let me go over here to the training page, and I'm going to bring up EDA's own presentation for the recipients. Let's see if it's in there. Right. Okay, that's what I thought. So this is what we're going to use to present. These screens right here are what we're going to be using to present to the recipients tomorrow. And let's see in here. I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but there is, I believe there was a section on the ASAP drawdown request. So let me, there's progress reports, financial reports, award action request. Here's award action request. Here's creating an award action request. Here's the ASAP drawdown request. So what we don't see on this, it does say, number 3, if an SF-270 is required, attach it using the attachments feature. Maybe we need to add another red box up here so that they can see the attachments feature up here. But it is mentioned right here in the steps for the ASAP drawdown request. So complete it, click Save, add the attachment, and then forward to the agency. So these are the steps that we have in the presentation for the grantees. Okay. Let's see what else we have here. Closeout process. There's a question about going through the closeout process. I'm going to try to do that. I didn't get a chance to really set up an award to be closed out, but we saw one of the awards that already had a date, a past due date. So what I'm going to do is I am going to try to use that award. Or let me do this. What award is this? This is the award we've been using.
So Lillian, in Grants Online, when they say close out, does that start with like the deobligation?
Let me show you the process map. There's two parts to close out. Thank you, Roberta. Roberta was asking where does it start. So let me show you where are my process maps for that. Do we have the closeout process maps up here? Grants management right here. It's the last page here. You know what we need to do, Yvette?
Mm-hmm.
See here where we have, okay. No, that's fine. That's fine. That's fine. Okay. GMD process maps. The last one on this page shows our closeout process. So the closeout process cannot begin until after the project end date has passed and the award status has changed from accepted to expired. Okay? So that's the first thing that has to happen. The project end date has to be in the past, and it has to be expired now. Once it's expired, the grantees can then submit their final progress and financial reports. They need to do that first before we move forward with the rest of the closeout process. Let me make this a little bit bigger. Okay? Then, once that's done, forget this top line as a special case for NOAA. Basically, the project officer is going to initiate the financial closeout. And I'm going to go ahead and try to get awards set up so that we can do this. I might have to do it with a NOAA award, but I'm going to do it with an EDA award so we don't have to worry about the interface. You would initiate the financial closeout. There's an optional piece that goes through a financial reviewer, but pretty much it will go to the grants officer after the grant specialist. Grants officer will approve the obligation memo. Then it will come over here to Roberta. Roberta will deauthorize any ASAP money that's still out there. After that's completed and certified, then she will deobligate the money in CBS, and that concludes the financial closeout. Once the financial closeout has been completed, what we call the manual or administrative closeout can be completed. And that's simply a checklist. And you're just going down the checklist and saying check, 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 and then the grants officer approves it. So let me see if I can find an award that we can close out in here. And what was that one that, there was one that ended, I think, 004. I'm going to try to expire it or at least change the status.
007?
Was it 007? Yeah, I remember one of them had a February date, right? Was that the one that was the February date?
That's the one you said. Make sure we remember that.
That's the one, yeah. I think that's the one I want.
Yeah, close out.
I think that's the one I want to do the closeout on. So this one has a February date. It still says accepted because we don't run the scripts on training like we do on production to change the status. I'm going to try to do that real quick. We may go over 3 a little bit. I've got time, so if you want to listen to the end of this, just hang in there. And we're going to go through our closeout process. All right, this is 007. I'm going to go here. Or dates. So we want to make the status to is now expired. This award is ED 17. ED 17, GOT 997 0007. Okay, and I don't need to do this. I'm going to make this expired. It's going to be expired. Okay, board number is, put this in here, ED 17, GOT 997 0007. Play and help desk, guys. Give me a minute. I think this will do what we want to do. Let's try this. Oh, I got to log back into my database. Give me a second here. All right, let's try it now. All right, so I am now going to search awards again and look for this award right here.
Do you have to change the award status?
That's what I did.
No, I meant in the search award.
No, it's still open. Good question. So Yvette was asking me, did I need to change this this filter now that the award is expired? No, as long as it's not closed, even if it's expired, it'll still show up when the filter is open. Okay? The award is still considered open until it's completely closed. So the statuses that can be shown are open, all, or closed. If you're looking for something, you know it's been out there and you can't find it under open, then flip it to all, and you may see, you should see it then. But what I just did just now was I changed the status from accepted to expired since that date is in the past. Let's take a look at it now. It's now an expired award. There's some actions out here that haven't finished, but it is an expired award. So let's see what we have here. Now, as the federal person, I want to do the closeout, but I don't have my progress and financial reports yet. So I need to get my recipient to send those in. I can go in as a recipient. I can, but for the sake of time, what I'm going to do is.
See a task? Is that how you knew?
What?
You didn't see a task?
Oh yeah. Okay. So Roberta is asking me. Right. So there is a missing drop down here. There is no drop down that tells me I can initiate initiate a financial closeout or manual closeout. Notice both of these say override the policy. The reason why I would need to override the policy in order to start the closeout is because I don't have my final reports. The policy is I must have my final financial report and my final progress report before I can start my closeout process. However, this option does exist. This option is needed for those cases where you have a grantee that has abandoned the project and they're not responding and submitting documentation like they need to. But you need to go forth and close this award out, okay? So we're going to pretend like this recipient has abandoned the project and we haven't gotten the progress and financial reports. Normally you would, but just in this case we haven't. So these two options are not available until the award is expired. Okay? As long as it says accepted, these two options are not there. So the award has to be expired. I'm going to initiate the final closeout and I'm going to override GMD policy since I don't have a financial report in. It is working. Let's give it a minute. Okay, here we go. All right. I have to document in the system what my justification is. Why am I moving forward? And why am I overriding the policy and moving forward with my closeout? So it allows me to do it, but I have to document why I'm moving forward. Okay? I'm going to say recipient has abandoned project and is not submitting final reports. Okay? Save. I meant to show you that pop-up that came up. I don't know if you saw it, but it says, are you sure you want to move forward? Because it's extremely difficult to undo this once you start this process. It's not that extremely difficult, but it's, but you know, we're trying to scare people. We get to Roberta pretty good. Now, it is difficult to change, to roll things back. It's not difficult to pull the whole thing off. We can actually pull the whole financial report off and then start it all over again. All right, here is our deobligation memo. So we have to, for EDA, because there is no CBS interface, this will always be 0 because this amount is only filled in for the interface awards. Okay? We're going to, we'll just say closeout reconciles. It could be reconciles. It could, this is just template language in these. So each one of these has different template languages. You can pick whatever language you want, and if nothing is out there that you really want, just click on select template and just type in what you really want to say. Okay? You don't have to use the templates that are out there. All right. This little box is automatically checked if you don't have a reconciled closeout. And what this is going to do is it's going to force the workflow. Let me go back to that workflow. Right here, it's going to force the workflow to go to the finance office, and this is probably Roberta. You would get this so that you could do a review before the grants officer signs off. Otherwise, you won't get that. If that checkbox is not, let me go back where I was. If this checkbox is checked, it'll go to Roberta for a preliminary review. If it's not, it won't go to Roberta. It'll go to the grants officer and then go to Roberta afterwards. Okay? Save and start workflow. Okay. Forward to the director, forward to the finance reviewer. You still have the option to do it, but it doesn't have to. If the checkbox is in there, it must go to the finance reviewer. This way right now is just optional. So for EDA, the next step is the director. Let me look at the process map. We need to get that into the process map. We did build that in. It needs to go both to the director and the grants officer. Yeah, we need to add it into the process map. All right, let's take a quick look at it. It's now with the director. And it's just, let me go ahead and take it through so that you guys can see. Hold on. Let's go back to this process map. What I'm going to do, now we have started the financial closeout. I'm going to go ahead and start the manual closeout too. The system will not let me complete the manual closeout until the financial closeout has completed. The system forces the financial closeout to be complete first. But I want you to see it just for the sake of time, and then whoever wants to stay, I'll go ahead and complete the workflows. Okay? So let's go back to the grants file. Let's now do the manual closeout. Also overwrite GMD policy because we don't have those reports in. Submit. Okay, similar screen to what we had before. Recipient is not responsive. Moving forward with closeout. Okay, so you would need to put a more official justification. Here it is right here. Overriding GMD policy to close an award is extremely difficult to reverse.
You see how she did that?
Extremely in capital letters. Okay? So, please don't use that unless you really, really, really want to. So actually the GMD, the overriding of the policy may be, this doesn't happen often, so it may be a little difficult for us to reverse it. What we can do is we can actually pull a financial closeout off or a manual closeout and you can start it over again. But the overriding of the GMD policy, I don't think we can undo that very easily. So once you get to the last page in manual closeout, it's just a list of questions. And you're just going through this whole list and just checking yes, no, NA. Okay? I'm not going to go through all of these right now. We can do a screenshot and get it out to the folks if you guys want to see what all is on these questions. But that's what it is right now. Now, I do know that NOAA is in the process of recommending some updates to this list. And so since they're doing that, if EDA has some recommended updates that they want to add, then let's do it all at one time if we're going to make changes to this checklist right here. But right now, countersigned copy, cost share, indirect cost, suspended, these are the things that are on here. And Phil, remind me if any of your folks want a screenshot of this checklist, we can get that out. Okay? So let me just go through this and just kind of do yes on everything. I'm just clicking something. Did I miss one? 4. Thank you. Save and start workflow. All right. And forward to the grants officer. I can get that far, but let me log off and log in as EDAGO. What I want you to see is that the grants officer should not have an approval option because the financial workflow hasn't finished. Let's make sure that I'm not telling you a lie. I told a lie in the last class I had, and I was caught on it. I was called on the carpet. The system showed me that I was not telling the truth. So, just want you to know, I don't know everything there is to know about Grants Online. Let's take a look at that task. Here's the closeout task. Review the closeout. Review. Notice it can be returned to the grants specialist or to the project officer. We're going to click on the review. So they can look at it. It's not locked. The grants officer can actually make changes if they want. I doubt if they will, but they can. Okay? Save and return to main. Look at the workflow analysis box. Complete financial closeout before closing the award. There is no close option here. It will not be available until the financial closeout has completed. So that's the closeout process. I believe that was the last question. Is that it? Any more questions from our audience? Thank you for very much. You have endured us for 2 hours. Hopefully it's been a helpful staff webinar, and we do plan to continue to do these at least once a quarter. And provide feedback. Please provide us feedback for how this one was, if it addressed your questions. Did it go well as a webinar?